Ladies and gentlemen, life is a gift, but it's not just a gift to be opened and admired. It's a gift to be given away, piece by piece, in service to others. You see, the secret to a meaningful life isn't hidden in the mountaintops or the bank accounts. It's in the value we bring to people. That's right, value. Life isn't about getting, it's about giving, and growing while doing it. We weren't born to just consume, complain, and coast. We were born to contribute. And every day we get the opportunity to do just that, to lift, to lead, to serve. You don't need a title to make a difference. You don't need fame to have influence. You only need a decision to serve. Serve with your time, your talents, your wisdom, your kindness. Because when you serve, you build something far more important than wealth. You build legacy, and don't wait for the world to be perfect before you start. Start where you are, with what you have, serve one, and you'll find the joy that serving many can bring. Remember this, the smallest act of service can echo across a lifetime. So ask yourself not just what you're getting from life, but what you're giving to it. Because the sole meaning of life, it's not about what you own. It's about who you help. Life gains meaning when we give it away in service to others. It's a simple idea, yet one that carries immense weight. Too often, we are told to chase success, accumulate wealth, and pursue personal comfort as the highest goals in life. But at some point, many of us reach those destinations, or get close, and still feel a quiet emptiness inside. That's when we begin to realize that meaning doesn't come from what we gather. It comes from what we give. Serving others is not just an act of charity or a moment of kindness. It's a way of living that realigns us with something greater than ourselves. When we shift from what can I get to how can I help, we unlock a deeper, more lasting sense of purpose. Suddenly, our actions aren't just about advancing our own position. They're about lifting someone else up. Whether that's through listening, teaching, sharing resources, or simply being present in someone's moment of need, service transforms both the giver and the receiver. There's a unique kind of joy that comes from helping others. It's not loud or flashy. It doesn't always come with applause or recognition, but it settles into your soul in a way that nothing else does. Think about the times when you've made a real difference in someone's life, not for reward, not because you had to, but because you chose to. Those moments stay with you. They give your days weight and your actions worth. They remind you that you matter because you made someone else feel like they matter. Service doesn't always look like grand gestures or world-changing projects. Sometimes it's small and quiet. It's the teacher who stays late to help a struggling student. It's the neighbor who mows the lawn for an elderly couple next door. It's the parent who sacrifices their comfort for their children's future. These aren't headline-making moments, but they're the backbone of a meaningful life. And service is not limited to a certain time in your life. You don't have to wait until you've made it to start giving. In fact, it's often in the act of serving that we do make it, because we learn more about ourselves, build deeper relationships, and develop qualities like empathy, patience, and humility. These are the true measures of a well-lived life, not the number of digits in a bank account or followers on a screen. When we serve others, we begin to understand the interconnectedness of humanity. We see that our well-being is tied to the well-being of those around us. A rising tide lifts all boats, and by contributing to the lives of others, we also elevate our own. Our struggles feel lighter when we know we are not alone. Our victories feel sweeter when we share them. And our lives feel fuller when we live them not just for ourselves, but for a purpose beyond us. Some may argue that life is too short to spend it serving others, that we should focus solely on our happiness. But what if true happiness isn't found in self-indulgence, but in selflessness? What if, in reaching out, we rise up? In helping others find light, we brighten our own path. Time and again, the happiest, most fulfilled people aren't the ones who have everything. They're the ones who give everything they can. To serve is to choose a life of impact. It's to plant seeds in a garden we may never see fully bloom. But that doesn't make the act any less powerful. In fact, that's what makes it noble. To give, to serve, to sacrifice, knowing the reward may not be immediate or even visible, is the highest expression of what it means to be human. So yes, life gains meaning when we give it away in service to others. It becomes richer, deeper, and more connected in a world that constantly tells us to take more, choose to give. Because in the end, the life that is poured out for others is the one that will never run dry. Serving humanity brings more lasting value than material success. That may seem like an unpopular idea in a world where material achievements are often equated with personal worth. We're told from a young age that success means climbing the corporate ladder, owning luxurious possessions, and gaining admiration for what we have. While there's nothing inherently wrong with striving for comfort or financial security, the question remains, do those things alone bring fulfillment? More often than not, they don't. The true measure of a meaningful life is not found in what we accumulate, but in the impact we leave behind through service to others. Material success is temporary by nature. The car eventually loses its shine, the house ages, the job title changes, the money gets spent. These things are fleeting. They may bring moments of satisfaction or convenience, but they rarely leave us with a deep and enduring sense of purpose. In contrast, when you serve others, when you use your time, talents, or resources to lift someone else, what you create often outlives the moment. Acts of service have a ripple effect. A word of encouragement can change someone's mindset. A helping hand can alter the course of someone's life. The value created through service isn't stored in a vault. It's stored in the hearts of people, in the culture of a community, and in the legacy that echoes far beyond your presence. Serving humanity taps into something far greater than the self. It invites you to be part of a bigger story, one that isn't just about your personal comfort or your private achievements, but about collective growth, shared compassion, and building a better world. While material success can elevate your lifestyle, service elevates your life. It gives you purpose in a way no paycheck ever could. When you wake up knowing that your actions matter to someone else, that your life is a source of good in the world, there's a satisfaction that runs deeper than any material reward. Service also fosters qualities that money can't buy. When you dedicate yourself to serving others, you develop empathy, patience, resilience, humility, and love. These qualities not only shape your character, but enrich every relationship you have. You become more attuned to the needs of others, more grateful for what you have, and more committed to using your life as a force for good. And that change in character often leads to a more peaceful, balanced, and joyful life, something material success alone can't guarantee. There's also a kind of stability in serving others that wealth doesn't offer. Material success is subject to the economy, to external forces beyond our control. Fortunes rise and fall. But the value created through service, helping someone learn, offering support in a crisis, standing up for what's right, can never be taken away. It can't be taxed or lost in a market crash. It's eternal in the most human sense of the word. Many people who have achieved great wealth eventually come to this realization. They turn to philanthropy, mentorship, or social causes not because they've run out of ways to spend money, but because they're seeking something more enduring. They're seeking meaning. The truth is, you don't need to be rich to begin serving. In fact, some of the most generous people have the least to spare materially, but the most to give in spirit. And often, it's those small, consistent acts of service, checking on a neighbor, volunteering time, offering honest advice, that quietly change lives in ways that wealth never could. When you look back on your life, you probably won't remember the exact balance in your bank account. You'll remember the people you helped, the times you showed up when it mattered, and the ways you made others feel seen, heard, and valued. And others will remember you for those same things. That's what makes a life worthwhile. So yes, material success can provide opportunities and comfort, but it is service to others that brings lasting value, not just in the world, but in the soul. When you serve, you create connection, you foster dignity, and you make the kind of difference that echoes across time. A life built on service may not always be glamorous, but it is deeply fulfilling, and in the end, that fulfillment is worth more than any measure of material success ever could be. You don't need a title to make a difference, just a willingness to help. That statement holds a quiet but powerful truth. In a world that often places too much weight on titles, positions, and official roles, we forget that real change doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't require credentials, fancy degrees, or a nameplate on an office door. It only asks for one thing, a heart that's willing to serve. We tend to think of leadership or influence as something reserved for those with status. We believe that if we're not the CEO, the teacher, the pastor, or the politician, our voice doesn't matter. But history and everyday life show us otherwise. Time and again, the people who make the greatest difference are not always the ones at the front of the room. They're often the ones quietly working in the background, doing what needs to be done because they care. Think of the friend who shows up at the hospital unasked, or the stranger who stops to help someone with a flat tire. These aren't grand world-changing acts in the traditional sense, but in the moment, they are everything. They remind us that compassion is a form of leadership, and that action, no matter how small, is the first step toward making a difference. It's easy to wait, to think, I'm not in the right position yet, or someone else is more qualified to help. But the truth is, the world doesn't need more bystanders. It needs people willing to take responsibility, regardless of title or recognition. The willingness to help, right here, right now, with whatever you have, is often what separates those who make an impact from those who simply observe life happening around them. And let's be honest, titles don't guarantee action. You can have a title and still choose to do nothing. You can hold a position of authority and still walk past someone in need. What truly matters is your mindset, your readiness to step in, speak up, or offer your hand even when no one is watching and no one is applauding. This idea frees us. It removes the illusion that we have to become someone else before we can matter. You don't have to be famous to be important. You don't need to lead a movement to move someone's heart. Your current role, parent, friend, neighbor, student, employee, is already a platform for kindness and service. Every conversation, every gesture, every moment is a chance to leave someone better than you found them. Helping others isn't about changing the whole world in one stroke. It's about changing someone's world in the time you're given. It could be the child you mentor, the coworker you encourage, or the person you choose to forgive. These actions, while quiet and often unnoticed, can shift the course of a life. And when you do them without expecting credit or applause, their impact deepens. This mindset also builds self-respect. When you choose to help simply because it's the right thing to do, you don't need external validation. Your character grows. You build a reputation not just for what you've achieved, but for how you show up, for your reliability, your compassion, your integrity. That's something a title can never give, and circumstances can never take away. In every community, in every generation, the unsung heroes are often the ones without titles. They are the volunteers who never get recognized, the caregivers who work around the clock, the friends who listen without judgment. These are the people who remind us that real power lies not in authority, but in service. And that everyone, regardless of age, status, or role, has something to offer. So if you're wondering whether you're enough to make a difference, let this be your answer. Yes, you are, right now. You don't need to wait to be appointed, promoted, or certified. You simply need to care. The willingness to help, to step outside your comfort zone and do good is all it takes. Because at the end of the day, what people remember is not your title. It's how you made them feel, how you showed up, and how you helped when it mattered most. That's where true influence begins. That's where your legacy is built. And that's something anyone, absolutely anyone, can choose to start building today. Contribution creates legacy, not just recognition. Recognition is fleeting. It's the applause after a speech, the award handed out at a ceremony, or the likes and comments on a social media post. It feels good, no doubt, but it passes. People forget what you were praised for. The spotlight shifts, the world moves on, but contribution, what you give of yourself to others, to a cause, to your community, that has the power to outlast you. That's what builds a legacy. A legacy isn't what people say about you when you're in the room. It's what lives on when you're no longer there. It's the impact that continues to grow long after the moment has passed, because you planted something real, an idea, a habit, a piece of wisdom, or an act of kindness that took root in someone else's life. Contribution does that. It plants seeds. It's not always glamorous or even noticed at first, but it is the foundation of every lasting influence. Recognition is about being seen. Legacy is about what remains. And there's a critical difference. Anyone can chase recognition. You can do the bare minimum and still be praised if the timing is right. But contribution asks for more. It asks you to give something that costs you time, energy, thought, or heart. It demands consistency. It's not about doing something once. It's about showing up again and again, especially when no one is watching. Because when you contribute meaningfully, you're not just filling a space, you're changing it. The people who leave a legacy are often not the loudest or most visible. They are the ones who gave consistently, the teacher who poured into students year after year, the entrepreneur who built a company not just for profit, but for people, the neighbor who was always available when someone needed a hand. These people may or may not be recognized publicly, but the lives they touched speak louder than any trophy ever could. And that's the essence of legacy. It speaks for itself, often long after you've gone quiet. Contribution also reshapes how we view success. In a world that idolizes fame and wealth, it's easy to believe that recognition is the goal. But if you ask people at the end of their lives what mattered most, it's rarely the praise they received. It's the difference they made, the family they raised, the students they mentored, the strangers they helped. Contribution gives meaning to our days, and meaning over time becomes legacy. You don't need to be rich or famous to build a legacy. You only need to be intentional. Every time you share knowledge, extend kindness, solve a problem, or stand up for what's right, you contribute. And those contributions build something, sometimes slowly, sometimes invisibly, but they build. Over time, these moments add up. They shape your character. They influence those around you. They become the stories people tell about you not because they have to, but because they want to, because your presence mattered in a lasting way. It's important to remember that recognition can be taken away, awards gather dust, accolades can be forgotten, but a meaningful contribution becomes part of someone else's story. It lives on through those you've helped, taught, loved, or supported. That kind of legacy doesn't expire. It ripples forward, passed from one person to another, often in ways you'll never fully know. What you give to the world becomes more valuable than what you take from it. And the beauty of contribution is that it isn't limited by status. Everyone has something to offer, a kind word, a bold idea, a steady hand. It's not the size of the contribution that matters most, it's the sincerity behind it. Even the smallest act, done with purpose, can echo for generations. So choose to live a life of contribution, not just one of recognition. Recognition might make you feel important, but contribution makes you be important to someone, somewhere, in a way that lasts. And when all is said and done, it won't be the applause that defines your life. It will be the lives you touched, the values you stood for, and the legacy you left behind. Start small. Impact begins with the decision to serve where you are. It's a truth that many overlook in the pursuit of doing something big. We live in a world that celebrates grand gestures and sweeping change. We admire world leaders, global philanthropists, and innovators who reshape industries. While these figures can be inspiring, they can also create the illusion that we need to be extraordinary or in a powerful position before we can start making a difference. But the reality is, real impact almost always begins with something small, local, and personal. You don't need a perfect plan or a perfect situation to serve. You just need a willingness to act, right where you are, with whatever you have. Maybe that means helping a neighbor with groceries. Maybe it's volunteering at a local shelter, mentoring a young person, or simply listening to someone who needs to talk. These small acts may not make headlines, but they matter deeply to the people who receive them. And over time, these seemingly minor choices to serve build trust, community, and change. The idea that you must do something big to be valuable is one of the most dangerous lies you can believe. It keeps people frozen, waiting for the right time or the right platform that may never come. Meanwhile, the world around them goes on needing help, needing people who are willing to step up, even in small, quiet ways. When you decide to serve where you are, you stop waiting and start working. And that's when things begin to shift. The power of starting small is that it teaches you. It builds your awareness, your empathy, and your ability to recognize need. It gives you experience and helps you grow into greater responsibility. You learn how to connect, how to lead, and how to persevere. And perhaps most importantly, you realize that your efforts do matter, even when the scale is limited. You begin to see the humanity in others and the potential in yourself. Service isn't about fixing everything. It's about doing something. Often, the most transformational acts of service begin in your own home, your own workplace, or your own neighborhood. You don't have to travel across the world to make a difference. You can start by showing up fully in your relationships, by being dependable, by choosing generosity even when no one else does. And those choices create momentum. They inspire others. They create a ripple effect that extends far beyond what you see. When you commit to starting small, you also build credibility. People trust you when they see you consistently show up, not just for the big moments, but in the everyday. You become a person others can count on. And that's where influence truly begins, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where few are watching and fewer are applauding. Starting small also removes excuses. It eliminates the idea that you're not ready or that you need more resources before you can begin. The truth is, everyone has something to give: time, attention, encouragement, skills, presence. You don't have to wait until you've arrived. Service isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. When you bring your full self to the task at hand, even the smallest gesture can be meaningful. And don't underestimate the long-term impact of consistent small actions. A single encouraging conversation can spark new confidence in someone. A single meal shared with someone who's lonely can restore a sense of connection. Small seeds, planted with care and consistency, grow into strong trees over time, but you have to plant them. You have to begin. Impact isn't a destination. It's a direction, and it starts with a decision. The decision to serve, to care, to act, no matter how modest the opportunity may seem. Waiting for the perfect moment is often just another form of procrastination. The truth is, where you are right now is exactly where you need to be to make a difference. Your surroundings, your community, your daily interactions, these are your arena. This is your chance to begin. So, if you're wondering whether your small actions can really make a difference, the answer is yes. The most lasting changes in the world have always begun with individuals choosing to act in small, consistent, and courageous ways. Start where you are, use what you have, serve in the place you stand, and you will discover that impact doesn't come from size. It comes from sincerity, from showing up, and from choosing to care. True fulfillment comes not from what you get, but from what you give. This truth challenges the way many people are conditioned to think about happiness and success. From early on, we're taught that fulfillment comes from acquiring things: money, recognition, accomplishments, and possessions. We chase promotions, dream of luxurious lifestyles, and strive to build resumes filled with impressive milestones. But even when those goals are reached, something often feels missing. The sense of emptiness that follows a major achievement or a big purchase is not uncommon. That's because while getting can bring temporary pleasure, giving brings lasting fulfillment. Giving isn't only about material generosity, it's about pouring yourself into something beyond your own needs. It might mean giving your time, your energy, your attention, or your support. It might mean showing up for someone consistently, even when it's inconvenient. True giving means choosing to make a part of your life about more than just you. And when you do that, something changes inside. The focus shifts away from what you lack or what you want toward what you can offer. And that shift creates deep, lasting satisfaction. There's a kind of joy that can't be replicated by possessions or praise. It's the joy you feel when you know you've made a difference, when you've lifted someone's burden, when you've contributed to something meaningful. That kind of joy is rooted in purpose, not in ego, and it grows over time the more you give. It becomes a quiet strength, a deep well of contentment that doesn't rise and fall with circumstances. One reason giving is so fulfilling is because it connects us. In a world that often feels fragmented and self-focused, giving reminds us that we're part of something bigger. It pulls us out of isolation and into community. Whether it's a simple act of kindness or a sustained commitment to a cause, giving ties us to other people in a powerful way. It builds empathy, trust, and mutual respect. And in those connections, we often find the sense of belonging we've been searching for in all the wrong places. Fulfillment also comes from knowing your life is about something more than survival or success. When you give, you leave a mark, you create impact, and that impact becomes part of your legacy. People may forget what you had, but they will remember how you helped. They will remember how you made them feel. And when you know your life has been a source of good in the world, you feel full, not in the shallow, momentary sense, but in the quiet, enduring sense that your life mattered. It's not always easy to give. There are days when it would be easier to turn inward, to protect your time and energy, to guard your heart. But fulfillment doesn't come from choosing what's easy. It comes from choosing what's meaningful. It comes from investing yourself in others, from carrying someone else's load when they can't do it alone, from being the steady hand in a chaotic moment. That kind of giving often asks something from you, but it gives far more in return. And giving isn't just for others. It's also transformative for you. It shapes your character. It makes you more grounded, more grateful, and more aware of life's deeper values. It pushes you to grow in patience, in humility, and in compassion. The more you give, the more you discover about yourself, what you're capable of, what you care about, and who you want to become. In a culture that often measures success by what we accumulate, choosing to give is a radical act. It's a declaration that you believe life is not just about getting ahead, but about lifting others as you go. And when you live this way, you start to see your efforts ripple outward. A word of encouragement inspires confidence. A moment of service becomes a story someone tells for years. A gift of your time creates memories that shape someone's life. So if you're searching for fulfillment, look beyond the mirror, look beyond your goals and your gains. Ask yourself not just what you want from life, but what you want to give to it. Ask who you can serve, what you can share, and how you can show up. Because fulfillment doesn't flow from accumulation. It flows from contribution. From giving with sincerity, from offering the best of yourself, again and again. In the end, the richest lives are not those with the most, but those who gave the most. The lives that overflow not with things, but with meaning. And that kind of richness is available to anyone, no matter their circumstances, because it begins with a choice, the choice to give,